Hello and welcome back to another Big Finish video. Today I've decided to do another top 5 list. Been a while since I've done one of these. I'll probably need to update my lists for Doctors 5 to 8 at some point. But for now, I'll be taking a look at my top 5 favourite Big Finish releases for the second Doctor. Out of all of them, the second Doctor is probably the most difficult to adapt to a non-visual medium, especially without the actor himself. A lot of the most important elements of this incarnation came from Patrick Troughton himself, so it's hard to replicate them without him. Elements such as his physical expressions, his body language, all the improvised moments and ad-libs, not to mention his very close relationship with Fraser Hines. So when it came to bringing the second Doctor to audio, Fraser really was the best choice to take on the role.
If I can get a word in, I never said you couldn't have another go. It makes sense, after all, for you to know how to fly the TARDIS. It's just that the TARDIS is a precision instrument, and she needs careful handling. There we are. I've set the basic controls. Now, if you want to have a go, then try setting the fine temporal coordinate modulator.
However, for this list, we won't have to worry too much about the characterization of the second Doctor, as today we'll be looking specifically at his companion chronicles. These are a set of small cast, almost audiobook adventures told from the perspective of the companions, either to offer them a little bit of character development or growth, or just an opportunity to give these characters another story. I won't be talking about Lost stories or the Early Adventures range in this list, but I may end up doing them in the future. Before I get into the list, I would just like to say, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel for more content like this or other stuff that may interest you. And if you enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like. I would be interested to see your top 5 lists, so feel free to leave them in the comments below, as well as suggestions for other videos you would like to see from me in the future. And without further ado, let's begin. At number 5 we have Resistance. When looking at all of the second Doctor's companions, Polly is probably my least favourite. I mean, I like her fine, she's just not as interesting as the others. Fortunately, we have this story, which puts Polly centre stage, not only expanding on her character, but giving us a better look at what type of relationship she has with the Doctor, something that isn't really clear in the TV stories with her. This is also a great showcase for the pure historical story format. At some point I want to do a video on this subject, but for now I'm going to say I really feel Doctor Who abandoning these types of stories was a mistake. Pure historicals can work just as well, if not better, than some of the stories that have to include aliens. As one of the many second Doctor Big Finish plays set in World War II, Resistance is one of the strongest. Cut off from Ben and Jamie, the Doctor and Polly are trapped in German-occupied France, having to rely on the support of the French resistance to help them and a crashed British pilot escape to safety. Said pilot having a connection to Polly which I won't spoil. It's a very tense story, with Polly and the Doctor having to put themselves at risk by placing their lives in the hands of these strangers. Number 4, the memory cheats. There are 3 types of Big Finish companion chronicles. You have ones like Resistance, which are the companions telling these stories to an unseen or heard, in this case, audience. The least common are companions having solo adventures which are happening in real time, a standard story. And you have plays like this, which has 2 stories going on. This basically means that there is a reason why the companion is recounting this adventure they had with the Doctor. In this case, we have Zoe. Of course, her adventures with the Doctor were wiped from her mind by the Time Lords. However, returning to her home, she gets into trouble with people from her own time, who try restoring her memories. I mainly picked this one because it's a good jumping on point to her story arc. However, the adventure Zoe recounts is pretty enjoyable as well. The adventure she recalls is that of the time she, the Doctor, and Jamie visited Uzbekistan and investigated the disappearance of several children. Following on from this, we have my third choice, Second Chances, which acts as the finale of Zoe's character arc. It starts off with Zoe discussing an adventure she had which she wished had turned out differently. She soon discovers that may be possible. This is because not only did this event occur in her time period, but it's also something that's about to happen. As a result, we get to hear the story from the perspective of the two Zoes, as she's given the opportunity to try and undo her past mistake, while also having to hide her identity from the Doctor, Jamie, and her younger self. For my top two choices, I've picked a couple of releases which offer different takes on the same story idea, that being testing the strong relationship between Jamie and the Doctor. Jamie is considered to be one of the most popular companions, especially of the classic era, having great chemistry with his Doctor and being one of his most loyal friends. The Glorious Revolution puts their relationship into question when the Doctor and Jamie are on opposite sides of an argument. The TARDIS brings them back to Jamie's time, where he's given the opportunity to undo an historical event for the sake of his people, being at odds with the Doctor's belief in preserving history, as it's a very personal event for him. With the limited number of historical stories in the Troughton era, Jamie is usually put in the position where he's out of his depth and having to rely on his wits to survive in unfamiliar locations. Here, however, he's in his element, as he understands the impact these events will have on his people. Not only is this a good story to explore the mind of Jamie, we also get a look at a famous historical figure, James II, and how Jamie perceives this figure, his view on James. And at number 1 we have the Jigsaw War. Like the previous one, this story is another case of testing the Doctor and Jamie's friendship. However, in this story, it shows off how far Jamie is prepared to go in his loyalty and trust in the Doctor. We initially start off with Jamie as a prisoner of a human colony on an alien world, who question him about the indigenous population of the planet, with Jamie having a different perspective on them than the human guard interrogating him. However, the structure of the story goes off in an interesting direction. Big Finish is no stranger to episodes which are out of order, such as Creatures of Beauty. Though in this case, this story has the twist that Jamie is aware that events are out of order and he can sense when time is jumping around. One minute he's the prisoner, the next Jamie is now working with the humans and his guard is now the one in custody. He must work out the order of events in order to learn how we ended up in this situation and ultimately find a way to escape this time trap. All the while, there is an outside entity, something that is communicating through Jamie's guard, trying to make him question whether the Doctor's decisions in this situation are right or wrong, and if Jamie is on the right side. The play also has an interesting meta element to it, as the Doctor becomes involved in this plot when the creature possessing the body of Moran, the guard in question, has the Doctor speak through Jamie in order to offer advice and support. It's a clever way to explain why the Doctor sounds like Jamie. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to share my top 5 companion chronicles for the first and third Doctors. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and remember you can find and follow me on Twitter at the above links, and I'll see you next time.